Well, I'm out for a walk with Skippy. It's a bit chilly out today. It's like 60 degrees, so here comes the fall. Thought I'd go ahead and do a reading update for you. I'm hoping it's not going to be too windy in the sound here, but we'll give it a shot. So, in terms of books I just finished reading Picnic at Hanging Rock by Joanna Lindsey. If I can, I'll insert a picture of the cover. I read this in conjunction with a Goodreads group called Read Along with Ange. She's a booktuber on Beyond the Pages. And this is an Australian classic. It's set in the 1900s and focuses on an Australian all-girls boarding school. They take an excursion out to Hanging Rock on Valentine's Day, and several girls go missing. Now, the author's rather ambiguous as to whether the events in the book are true or not. Whether Picnic at Hanging Rock is fact or fiction, my readers must decide for themselves. As the fateful picnic took place in the year 1900, and all the characters who appear in this book are long since dead, it hardly seems important. So, it's up to you to, I guess, she wants to make it just that kind of confusing, and the whole book is rather confusing in a weird dreamlike sort of state. I think it's like 4 girls kind of go wandering up into Hanging Rock, which is sort of this volcanic, like, outgrowth in the middle of this foresty area. And the rest are kind of down below in the picnic area, and they say don't go wandering up too far, but they keep climbing higher and higher. One of the girls gets concerned and doesn't want to go any further, and she watches as the 3 other girls kind of continue climbing up. And for some bizarre reason, she starts screaming and running back down to the rest of the group, and she doesn't really remember like what happened beyond that. And has difficult finding her way back to the route that she and the other girls took when they return later to search for them. So these 3 other girls don't return. A search party goes out, and they discover that also the math teacher has gone as well. So now 4 people are missing on Hanging Rock. And I guess the whole disappearance, the point of the book is sort of the effects this disappearance has on the others, including the school headmistress, Miss Appleyard. She's very bizarre woman. Her character's rather confusing too, as to some other events that take place at the school surrounding another girl by the name of Sarah. She was very good friends with one of the girls that went missing, and she's very upset by it. And her relationship with Miss Appleyard, and it's rather contentious, and it's just a very bizarre kind of book, but it was really good. It was really intriguing. There's a movie version of it too that was a very, really good adaptation of it by Peter Weir. You can even catch that on YouTube. That's where I saw it. And apparently there's an 18th chapter that the author wrote at some point, but the editor recommended not putting it in there. And that makes it even more bizarre if you find out the facts about it. Apparently it was published posthumously after the author's passing, and it's in a book called Secret of Hanging Rock. I haven't read that, but I saw enough of it about the information about it on YouTube to find it interesting, so that was really cool. So on audio, I'm currently listening to Nevermore, The Trials of Morgan Crow by Jessica Townsend. It definitely seems a partial ripoff of Harry Potter. It's a middle grade book featuring a young girl named Morgan Crow. She is... Oh, Skippy just went through a nice big puddle. Oh. She apparently is one of the cursed, so everything bad that happens around her, she gets the blame for. Whether she is the cause of it or not is rather kind of confusing, but yeah, so she was born on a certain night, and apparently that means that she's due to die on this particular day, on her particular birthday, and it doesn't bode very well, so her future is very bleak. Now, all the other kids, they seem to get apprenticeships, they get little contracts for what their future will be. She's not destined to get one because, of course, she has an end date coming, but for some bizarre reason, she ends up with 4 contracts. And one of them is to the Wondrous Society. So her family's all against this and stuff, but this is like a chance. What the heck was she got to lose? So she goes off with this person, accepts the contract, signs it, and is off on this bizarre world, aka like Harry Potter. You know, you get this letter in the mail, and apparently she has not magical abilities per se, but she has what they call a knack. Everyone has a knack that's accepted into this society, and she doesn't know what her knack is. And I still don't know what it is. We're about 3/4 of the way into the book and we're still waiting to find out. But she has to undergo these trials to see if she's worthy, and there's many applicants, and she has to pass all these like tests. And this had a feel to me like Harry Potter's The Goblet of Fire. She shouldn't really be allowed to be participating in this. Harry because he was underage. She because she's from was it the Free State? Rather than, oh, I forgot. There's like a different part of the world that she shouldn't be eligible for, but she's been sort of snuck in by Jupiter. I forgot his last name. He's the one who brought her in. He's like nominated her as his protege or whatever you want to call her. So she's gotten into this group kind of illegally, and they keep kind of trying to sneak her through. People keep wanting to see her papers, and but he keeps kind of fudging his way in. But now that she's been accepted into the trials, they can't really kind of push her out. There's a Draco-like character in the form of a fellow student who's competing against her. So it definitely had this Harry Potter feel running through it, but the more I'm getting into the story, the more I don't really care. I'm really enjoying it. I've heard a lot of people speak really highly of this book, and I can understand why. So yeah, I'm really enjoying my way through, and the narration's really good as well. Oops, Skippy's running. We gotta run. I also started Jamaica Inn by Daphne du Maurier. This is another read along with Ange from her YouTube channel. She's reading, it's like the Daphne du Maurier project. Actually, it's on Goodreads as well. We're reading all of du Maurier's books in chronological order, so we're on Jamaica Inn now, and I'm really into the book, but I've had to kind of set it aside because I'm participating in another readathon, which I'll get into in a minute. But it's a really intriguing book about a young woman who she lived on a farm with her parents, and her father died some time ago, and her mother kind of were struggling along. But now that her mother has just passed away, right before she passed away, she says she didn't want her daughter being alone, and it was too rough of a life. She said she wanted her to go live with her aunt. So she contacts her aunt and finds out she's not where she used to be. She's now married and living on like a more really open, kind of desolate area, but she and her husband run an inn called Jamaica Inn. And when she goes there, she meets her uncle, and he's not a very nice man. Her aunt is a totally different person. She seems rather timid and kind of fearful of her husband. She can understand why after having met him. And there's some mystery about this inn. A secret room that's always locked, visitors that come late at night, and that she's supposed to just stay in a room and not pay attention to and not ask questions. And her aunt's very fearful about what's in this room. Some evil that's in the room. I don't mean like horror type, ghostly type thing, but something that her husband is involved in, maybe something illegal. She thinks it's smuggling. This young woman, I'm blanking on her name because I'm reading too many books at once. I want to say her name is Mary, I think so. So she's kind of curious as to what her uncle's up to. But she almost wants to leave the inn herself, but she doesn't want to abandon her aunt to this man. So I'm curious as to what's going on with it, but I kind of had to set it aside because I'm participating in Tome Infinity and Beyond, a sci-fi readathon. I'm going to be vlogging my way through that, so I'm in the middle of reading Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. It's kind of a sci-fi book told in an epistolary fashion, so there's emails and all sorts of things that you're reading, transcripts and stuff. It's not normal text. And that's like 600 pages, so I'm into Jamaica Inn, but I've had to set it aside while I'm participating in this readathon. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. That's my update. Hope it wasn't too windy or noisy, and yeah, I'm gonna go now. See you guys next time. It's quite beautiful out here. It makes you feel so small. It's quite huge all around there. I'm seeing a ton of monarchs. I can't get close enough to take a picture.